On behalf of your co-host, the Olathe and Lenexa Chambers of Commerce, welcome back to our next forum featuring House District 30. Again, I'm Scott Cope of Enterprise Bank, and as a member of the Olathe Board's Executive Committee, it's my honor to be serving as moderator. For those of you who may not have attended their earlier forum, our format today includes a 3-minute opening statement by each candidate, a moderated question and answer period during which candidates will each have 1.5 minutes to respond, followed at the end by a 2-minute closing statement. This district includes portions of Northeast Olathe and South Central Lenexa. First, I'll introduce the candidates. Brandon Woodard, Democratic primary election candidate, grew up in Topeka and graduated from KU, where he was involved in many campus civic organizations and causes, ultimately serving as student body vice president. He currently works as a fundraiser at KU, advising alumni on how to support the university through philanthropy. Brandon lives in Lenexa. Obviously, that's a challenging word for me.
Thank you, everyone. See, get the mics working. My name is Brandon Woodard. I wanted to thank the Olathe and Lenexa Chambers for sponsoring this event and for all of you for taking time out of your afternoon to ask us questions and hear from us. Like I said, my name is Brandon Woodard. I'm a lifelong Kansan, an advocate for healthcare, education, and fiscal policy for several years, and a proven community leader. I'm running for the Kansas House to give the people of Olathe and Lenexa a real voice in Topeka. Having grown up as a free and reduced lunch student, I know that we must eliminate the sales tax on food. We should not be putting the burden of the state's bills on the backs of our families that are trying to buy food. Having attended KU as a Pell Grant recipient, I know that we must invest in public K-12 and public higher education here in Kansas. I believe that public education gives our young Kansans the foundation from which they are given the opportunity to lead a meaningful life. And as a former healthcare revenue worker, I know that we have to expand Medicaid to make access to quality, affordable healthcare possible for all Kansans. Expanded healthcare coverage reduces uncompensated care at our physician clinics and our hospitals, which makes healthcare cheaper for all Kansans. I currently work as a higher education fundraiser for the University of Kansas at KU Endowment Association, both in Lawrence and Kansas City, Kansas. And I work with our alumni in the Kansas City metro region and across the country to connect their philanthropic interests with the needs of the university. After the millions of dollars of cuts to higher education over the last 10 years, trust me, there are many needs that our universities have. So every day I'm working to make college more affordable for our students and also creating real-world opportunities for them both in and out of the classroom along the way. I'm running because my neighbors, community leaders, friends, and family asked me to. Olathe and Lenexa deserve an accessible, responsive leader representing them in Topeka, which they've not had for the last 4 years. I've been present, attending the rare town hall that our outgoing state representative would choose to show up at for over 3 years. And I'm the only candidate in this district that voters chose to put on their August ballot, having filed for office by petition with 4 times the required signatures to get on the ballot. I chose to move to Lenexa over 3 years ago because of the opportunity. Jobs, schools for hopefully a future family, great parks and trails, and access to transportation. My campaign believes that when we work together, we can create a stronger Kansas. When I'm in Topeka, I look forward to working with the people of Olathe and Lenexa, community leaders, and all of you to create a stronger Kansas. Thank you so much. And again, my name is Brandon Woodard, running for Kansas House District 30.
We'll now move on to the moderated question and answer portion of this segment. First question, what are your views on state tax policy? Candidate 2.
I support a fair and balanced and predictable tax policy in Kansas, one that we have not had over the last 8 years. Given the administration and the incumbent, the outgoing state representative, has been supportive of a tax policy that I believe does not work for Kansas. I believe that we used to have one of the more progressive tax structures in the country, and we have walked away from that. I support an additional tax bracket for single earners making $500,000 a year or more, or couples making $1 million a year or more, which I think would pay for a lot of the exciting, bold ideas we have in this campaign. And I also believe that we should reduce the sales tax on food, getting to elimination of sales tax on food, since we're currently paying the highest grocery tax in the country.
With record low unemployment rates, challenging businesses' ability to find enough employees, what would you do to grow and develop the state's workforce?
I think we absolutely have to increase our investments in public education, not just K-12, but also higher education. As a higher education fundraiser, I do this every day. I work with our very successful alumni that are usually executives in their company, and having such a focus on our Kansas City metro region, I've been able to look at ways that not only can we utilize their philanthropic, resources to make meaningful change at KU, but also looking at what are you doing to recruit students? How can we as a university, how can our higher education institutions meet that recipe for employability? What are you looking for? And we are at a time where our state and our higher education institutions and universities haven't always done that. So seeing that they are wanting to respond to meet the needs of the workplace is very exciting, but we also have to invest in our vocational and technical programs. My brother is a boiler operator, my dad was a truck driver, my mom's an office manager. I took the college route, and we've all been successful in our own ways, and so investing in public education creates the future workforce of Kansas, and we have a real shot of doing it if we invest.
The question. Topeka as a whole appears poised to refocus on the state's infrastructure. What would your priorities be in any new statewide transportation plan?
So in Kansas, we don't have oceans or mountains, so people come here for good jobs and stay for our good schools. The majority of the people in our district in House 30 don't work in the district, so they rely on our major highways that pass through the district to get to their jobs, get to school, their places of worship, things like that. So we have to invest in that infrastructure. Looking at the future of our state, we have to make sure that we have the good roads and bridges so that people aren't complaining all the time. I've had several people at the door that say that they feel like they're getting their wheels realigned every time they go in for an oil change because of driving on 435. So we have to change that. I also think that we have to, looking forward with this new transportation task force, make sure that we are preserving the funding for our roads, making sure that we're not using that money for anything else, and making sure that we have representation from Johnson County and Wyandotte County on that task force to ensure that we have representation going forward regarding transportation.
What are your views on funding K-12 education? Candidate 2.
As a proud graduate of a public K-12 education in Kansas and a public higher education in Kansas, I believe that you must invest in public K-12 schools. That's the foundation that gives everyone that opportunity to be on an equitable footing as their classmates. And funding K-12 schools is not just adding more money. We have to make sure that we're funding them equitably and adequately. Even here in District 30, we see differences between the Olathe Public School System and Shawnee Mission School District. So making sure that we have a fair and balanced school funding plan will help both school districts. I also think that we have to make sure that we have the resources for counseling and psychological services, nurses, paraprofessionals, and the things that make sure that every student has an equal opportunity to succeed in our Kansas public K-12 schools.
Question 5 has 2 parts. Describe what you see as the Kansas advantage when it comes to economic development and tourism, and the types of economic development policies you would support to encourage job growth and business expansion in Kansas.
For the Kansas advantage, I see, again, because of where we're at, public schools and public education being a real engine and a real power that we have here in Kansas. I think that when it comes to economic incentives, I agree we have to make sure that we are stopping the jobs jumping back and forth across state line, but making sure that we are incentivizing businesses to come here to create net new jobs, so that we are creating new jobs for the Kansas City metro area and not just hopping back and forth between the border. I think that investments in public education and higher ed also allow us to make sure that the higher education institutions are meeting the demands of our workforce. The Greater Kansas City Civic Council has been saying for years what they're looking for from our higher ed institutions, and we're now hitting their 2020 mark and just now getting there on some of these data-driven and different skill sets that they're looking for. Of course, STEM and everything else like that, but what we see in a lot of our companies in Kansas City area is that those humanities and liberal arts and sciences core classes are really great preparation for the workplace when you pair it with business or other technical education.
What is the most important thing that distinguishes you from your opponents in this race?
Focusing on the primary election, I think that the points that distinguish me the most is that I am a lifelong Kansan, a coalition builder that's been in Lenexa for 3 years, in the district for 3 years, but before that, having worked on school board and city council races for people I believed in my hometown of Topeka, later in Lawrence, and now in Johnson County. I believe that I'm the candidate that has the temperament and poise that it's going to take and that is required to work in Topeka, to build consensus, to work with people in your own caucus, but both flavors of the other side of the aisle, to make sure that we're getting some of these things done. The reality in Kansas is that you have to come together and bring together different ideologies to get big, bold solutions passed. You have to get to 63 votes in Topeka, and I know that I'm the candidate that can do that if we win come November.
We'll now move on to the closing statements by each candidate. As a reminder, candidates, you will each have 2 minutes to present a closing statement.
Well, I just want to thank the Lenexa and Olathe Chambers again for hosting this forum. It's such a great opportunity, and unfortunately one of the other candidates couldn't make it or didn't want to. And so I'll close with just saying that while I have not been in Lenexa for decades, I chose to come to this part of the state. Growing up in Topeka, going to school in Lawrence, and coming here, knowing that I wanted to stay in Kansas, I didn't like what was happening in Topeka, so I've done my best to be part of the fight, be part of standing up for what I believe in and what people like me believe in. I was very proud to co-found the Johnson County Young Democrats, the state's largest and most active chapter. We wanted to turn people's energy into action in a meaningful way to create dialogue and teach them how to meet with their elected officials, how to make their voice heard in a way that's productive. And, you know, for me as a candidate, I'm very proud to be a lifelong Kansan. I was born in Kansas, raised here, educated here, have been working and paying taxes here for 10 years, and I'm not going anywhere. So we're very excited in our campaign to be endorsed by KNEA, Ed First Shawnee Mission, the Kansas Young Democrats, KC BizPAC, and a number of other organizations. We are the consensus-building Democrat that can win in November. And so I will just ask for your vote this upcoming Tuesday, August 7th. And if you'd like to learn more about our campaign, you can go to woodardforkansas.com. Thank you.